Thanks, Craig.
Thank you, Craig, for the very first time in 2025.
Woo, new year.
Happy New Year! And
New
Total
year,
Billing's
new
back.
me. I'm going to be
New
so much
year.
more on top of my health and my spirituality and be a better person.
New year, new baloney. How are you?
Oh yeah, I've had better Christmas breaks. I'll just say that.
Yeah, me too. I can tell you that. We're back
We
after
are.
how long did we take? We take off like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And
A
we're
lot's
not
happened.
necessarily all in one piece, but we're here.
We survived somehow. Um, yeah. A whole lot has changed over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and you might be able to
And
tell by the fact that um, there's no delay and my audio doesn't sound so fucking terrible. I'm no longer on the other side of the world.
woo!
I'm in Australia.
Oh, fancy that, cobber.
Yeah, mate, fair income.
Yeah, grass.
But I'll ask you first, Kieran. How are things going on your end?
Things are going yeah, there was a little hiccup in my holiday, as you may
Mm-hmm.
have seen a snippet of on my YouTubes. Um, yes, I was on a water slide at Adventure World and I broke my collarbone. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, came round a bank turn and then sort of did sort of the correct, I don't know what you'd call it, but sort of s swept up one side of the bank, down the other side, and then smacked into the other side again, and I heard the crack as it happened, and yeah, fun times.
Ouch. This is
So that
why
was
I don't like water parks.
yeah, I wanted to cover a different side of Adventure World, being that I'd been there once before, so and I hadn't done any of the wet rides beforehand. Um, and you know what? I might stick to dry rides for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's something that people kind of overlook a lot is that amusement parks are a whole lot safer than water parks.
Yeah.
Like a
Um
million times safer.
Like, on a roller coaster, you're on a track, you're in restraints. On water slides
There's
and you s
very limited things that can happen to
yeah,
you in a roller coaster.
and I'm not taking any kind of dig or pot shots at Adventure World. This could have happened at any water park, you know? So it's just shit
Yeah,
happens. Accidents happen.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Look, you take on an element of risk with pretty much any sort of fun and entertainment. Amusement parks included as well. There is an
yeah.
element of risk. But yeah.
But
I'm
yes, it was just a case of, I knew something had happened, went to the first aid tent and, because I could move my arm a bit at the time, I don't know what the deal was, like, yeah, at the time, it seemed like I had an okay range of movement, but, yeah,
mm,
that evening, I went and took off my shirt and just felt something move, and I was just like, "Oh, that's not good." Yeah, that's very painful, so I had to cut sort of evening plans short with the boys from Perth Theme Park Life, and yeah, we'd planned on taking a tour of Optus Stadium, and yeah, I couldn't make it to that because I was in quite a fair degree of pain. And I had to make the decision sort of what to do, and it was either go to the emergency room and in Perth and potentially miss my flight the next morning and figure out what to do from there because trying to rebook a flight the day before Christmas Eve would have been a nightmare. So I decided not to do that, and I you know, just had to suck it up and then get on a plane for 5 hours back to Sydney. or however, four
A
and a half,
flight
5.
back
Yeah,
to Sydney would have sucked.
yeah. And
It's a long flight.
it is. And then yeah, so I did that, and then landed at the airport, got an Uber home, dropped my suitcase at home, and then called another Uber straight to RPA hospital. And yeah, the triage nurse was just like, "Yeah, I think you might have snapped your clavicle, buddy." And yeah, some X-rays and a doctor hearing from a doctor later just confirmed that. Yeah, so here I am sitting here in a sling. Gave me painkillers. And yeah, I find out they said it's possible that it would need surgery, but they wanted to see how it was going to heal on its own first to see if it would sort of do its own thing and not because they would rather not have to operate if it didn't need to be operated on. But I find out on the 8th whether or not I have to go back in for surgery. So fun
Man,
times.
things we do in this hobby.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
you're absolutely in the wars.
Oh, it's been a year of that, but I will let you take the mic for the moment. Because yeah, why are you back here in Australia, Jake?
Damn. How much of the SOP story do you want to hear? Um, so I have posted publicly about this on my YouTube channel now. So if there is a post up there somewhere, if people are interested in knowing more of the fun details. But essentially, I've known about this for a long time. I was diagnosed when I was 14. I have a condition called ankylosing spondylitis. It's closely related to a lot of forms of arthritis. Essentially, it's an autoinflammatory condition. Basically, my own immune system, um, under certain forms of stress, will attack my own body, um, which causes inflammation and pain and all sorts of other different complications. It's largely based around your lower spine, but it can spread to pretty much anywhere else in your body, like especially joints, tendons, anything like that. But I've been essentially in like with no symptoms, basically, very minor symptoms, for about I would say 3 or 4 years now.
Right.
Um, so I have been basically just treating symptoms for the duration of that time. Um, and that was the case when I went overseas with the intention of staying overseas on a semi permanent basis. Um, where I was based, my mindset was, look, I'm fine. I'm treating symptoms. I can continue treating symptoms. And if something happens, then I'm sure I'm insured. So I can go and see a doctor or whatever. The week before Christmas, within the space of about 36 hours, one of the parts of your body that the disease can attack is your eyes. Um, Within about 36 hours, I noticed in the afternoon one day that my eye was a little bit just irritated,
Okay.
kind of like I had something in it, like just a bit red, a little bit kind of sore and irritated. I couldn't get it to go away. Next day, it was worse, and I started to think, "Oh, this is not too good."
Yeah.
If I've had this, I've experienced this symptom before, so it was something that occurred to me. I was like, "Okay, if this gets worse in the morning, I will go to the hospital." And when I woke up in the morning, it was the worst that I've ever experienced it.
Oof.
Um, my eye was not just bloodshot, but the entire white part of my eye was bright red.
Jeez.
Um, I have some very nasty photos.
Oh, I can only
Um,
imagine.
it was horrible, and it was really agonizingly painful and incredibly sensitive to light, to the point that when I woke up, it was about 7:30 in the morning, and obviously I'm in Europe, so it's winter. The sun's not even up yet, and still, even just having my eye open in that level of light was agonizing. I couldn't stand it.
No, how horrible.
Um, yeah, it was pretty awful. So I knew that that's what it was immediately. I went straight to the emergency room in Ireland. with absolutely no idea about whether I was going to be able to afford to pay for treatment or whatever, or how much I was going to have to pay for, because I didn't know how the healthcare system worked.
Yeah, so
Luckily, it
is
works.
the NHS part of Ireland where you were?
No, no, because I'm in. I was in the Republic of Ireland, so
Not Northern Ireland. Okay, sure.
yeah, the part that's independent and part of the EU. Luckily, they do have a very good healthcare system, and I had to pay for a very minimal amount of it. Um, so that was fortunate. But I was sitting in that waiting room in the ER, and I'd messaged my mum and told her what was going on, obviously, so that she was updated. But while I was messaging her there, I sent her a message and I said, I'm sorry, there's dogs barking in the background. I sent her a message and said, um, look, I think this is a sign that I need to come home, because I don't know how I don't know if I'm gonna have other symptoms. I don't know um if this is gonna get worse from here, but this is like one of the worst symptoms that I've had, which is really alarming when 36 hours ago I had basically no symptoms. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's just better off being in Australia. And
Mhm.
so Christmas Eve, I flew out of Dublin, which was the earliest flight that I could get that didn't cost an exorbitant amount of money. And I spent almost the entirety of Christmas Day in the air.
Oh gosh.
Um, it was what, 2.5 hour flight from Dublin to Amsterdam, then a 11-hour flight from Amsterdam to Hong Kong, and then a 9-hour flight from Hong Kong to Sydney, and then flew
Jeez.
back home to Armidale the next morning, which was an hour.
That is a lot of travel.
It
In
was. It was.
on top of not feeling well and on Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. It was not the most pleasant Christmas of my life,
No.
but I'm here. I'm home. Um, kind of on top of things for now. I'll be seeing doctors and specialists and stuff to get back on top of everything. And the exciting news is that I've also been offered a job here,
Awesome.
and it's a job that gives me a lot of freedom to work remotely so that I can continue traveling. And so that's given me a real, one door closes and another one opens, because I'm kind of like, well, okay, well now I can keep doing Coaster Odyssey. I can keep traveling. It'll just be, I'll actually have a home base,
Yeah.
kind of. So, um, it's almost better off. So blessings in disguise, but yeah, it was not a pleasant Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, that seems to be in the water at the moment. Christmas is in
Mm,
the wars.
mm,
Um, yes, I'm quite glad to see the back of 2024, if I'm completely honest. There were some really good things, but the bad things were pretty rough, I gotta say. Um,
yeah, I'll reflect on it positively for a lot of things, but yeah, there were also some really rough moments for me in 2024, and I think, yeah, looking forward to a better 2025.
he is here. He here.
Yes.
Um, yes, in June 2024 is when things sort of went a little bit downhill for me. That was where, in the space of a week, I got dumped. I caught COVID and then found out that I had type 2 diabetes, which was a bit of a shock diagnosis for me. And it's not something I've spoken about on the channel as yet, but it might give you a little bit of a clue into why I had quite a bit of a physical transformation in my latest channel update, as you may have seen if you've been watching my channel. Um,
Mm,
yes, so I had to very quickly drop some weight just to get my blood sugar and HbA1c levels in check. And yeah, and a side effect of that comes, is a good part of that is, hey, I can fit on smaller roller coasters now, which is good, but it did not come without a lot of work. You know, there are
Which
some
is
people.
admirable.
Thank you, I appreciate that. The way it's, and I will get in further into this in a little bit, but yeah, it's interesting to see people's reactions when you make such a very big physical transformation. Just
Mm.
the way some people sort of, some will automatically go, "Oh, were you on those injections that like help you lose weight?" And full transparency, I tried them. They did not agree with me, and so I had to do everything the old-fashioned way. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, it's just less energy in than going out is the secret formula. It's just the old-fashioned way for me, unfortunately. But yeah,
It's very interesting that um, there's just such this toxicity about body image out there, particularly on social media.
yeah,
Like you can't, no one can, there's no right answer. You'll see people that are particularly big or particularly, their body shape is particularly large and they'll get shamed for that, but then they'll lose the weight and they'll get shamed for losing it too fast or
mhm.
losing it or not looking good when they lose it. Like
I have very
their
strong
body, yeah,
opinions on this topic.
yeah,
I come from a community that usually celebrates people of size. Um, and it
mm,
is very interesting to see the different ways people react when you change your body. Um,
yeah,
some people will
which
be
is
like,
so alarming because it's definitely just it comes from a place of hatred and vitriol because they're the same people who will shame you for being large in the first place, but then when you lose that weight and change the shape of your body, you get even more hatred.
"Mm."
It just doesn't make sense. Like, yeah, it's not a there's just so much hate out there,
My
unfortunately.
issue is that there is a difference between, um, saying, "Oh, you look like you've worked really hard," or "You look like your efforts have, have paid off." Like that, there's a difference between sort of congratulating on someone on something that they may have worked towards, and then there's a
Mm.
difference between that and saying, "Oh, you look so much better than you did before." Like,
Yeah, better
I
is a very
Yeah. I was, I had come to accept being, a bigger person. I built a whole channel around it. Jesus. Um,
mm.
but there is something a little bit backhanded about people just saying, "Oh, you look so much better now." And it's just like, "Come on, man. I was still a valid person beforehand." Um,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And to relate it to something that we're both very into as of the end of 2024, we're seeing the same on the other end of the spectrum with the way Ariana Grande
mm,
looks right now. It same kind of thing happens where it's like she has publicly said that this version of my body is the version of my body that reflects me at my happiest and healthiest. And yet there's still people being like, no, she's not healthy. She's got bulimia or anorexia or whatever they're going to claim that she has with absolutely no medical expertise whatsoever.
yeah. Um,
It's body image is just such a I don't understand how humans can be so when it comes to our own body image, we're so understanding of how fragile it can be and how different it is from one person to another. But as soon as it comes to someone else posting their own body on social media and changing their body in some way,
mhm.
it's it's all hate.
Yeah. I have been every size that you can imagine under the sun. And what is very apparent to me, and people think they're very subtle about it, but they are anything but, is the way they will behave when your body changes. Some people will come
Mm,
into your life when they've noticed you've lost weight and you become, palatable or acceptable to them. And then if you happen to put any of that weight back on, they just slink back into the shadows, never to be heard from again. It is
yeah.
very interesting. But yeah, my position is feel free to congratulate someone if that on their hard work, but also wait for them to volunteer that some kind of information. Don't start immediately pointing out their body to them because chances are they will want to, if they want to talk about it, they'll talk about it. They don't
Yeah.
need another person externally to bring the topic up because they're well aware that their body has changed. They don't need it pointed out. if they don't want to
There
talk
also
about it.
might be a very good chance that they don't wanna talk about it, yeah.
Exactly. We're talking about, my health diagnosis now because I'm comfortable with talking about it. But it took me a good 6 months since June for me to be comfortable with talking about it either on the channel or on the podcast. Yeah, there's it's been a journey. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, just keep that in mind, people, that if you've seen someone that may have undergone a physical transformation, before you bring it up, maybe take a beat and think, hey, if they want to talk about it, they will.
Yes, very important, um, important life lessons here on Total Baloney.
Yeah. But it's just one of those things that I feel like I had to address, being that I built a channel around being a bigger person and then suddenly not so big a person. So I'm aware that that's
Mm,
opening up discussion in that regard. So yes, I wanted to use this time to sort of address that. If that, yes, thank you for allowing me to do so.
of course, of course. Safe space,
Yes.
as always. Um, I do think though that, like, there'll be nothing, stopping you in terms of I don't think that I think because you have experience as a bigger person,
Mm,
you're still gonna be able to make comment on when you go on a ride and you find something that's a little bit restrictive or something that's on the other end of the spectrum is quite accommodating. You're still gonna notice those things, so I don't think that it takes away from the validity of the content at all.
totally.
It's, um and of
And
course, not that it really matters if it did, because of course you've made this decision for health and you've put a lot of work into that. So that's what's most important at the end of the day.
yeah, thank you. Um, Yeah, and there will be situations where someone who has only come across my channel in later years, like post transformation, will see me commenting on sort of what it's like for a bigger person. They'll go, "Why are you talking about that? You're not even big." It's like, watch back of the history. I think I've earned my bare
Yeah,
stripes, people.
go back to video number one.
Exactly.
No,
But yeah, so
absolutely.
that's why I'm not changing the name of the channel. Still a bear, just
Yeah,
a more slender one.
a bear in spirit.
Yes. Like I said in the update, ejector otter time just doesn't have the same ring to it.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't. Um, yeah, no, I'm also in a position of wondering where my own health is going to take the channel in the future. Someone actually asked me a very appropriate question about, particularly since my condition is largely spinal,
Yep.
is it going to impact my ability to ride roller coasters? Um, the answer is I hope not. Um, but there's a possibility that it could. At this stage, I don't think it will, particularly because the symptoms that I've experienced in this latest flare have not mainly been. I've had like a little bit of back discomfort, but not a lot. Um, so it's something that I need to manage, and I think that's part of the reason that I'm back,
Yeah.
um, because um, sitting in that waiting room, it did occur to me the thought of like if I don't get this handled and get a more effective treatment plan, and if I continue flaring like this, then it could be a very real possibility that it's just not possible for me to continue riding roller coasters. So yeah, but at this stage, nothing's going to change. But we're all, you know, I've just got to get it handled before it does get to that point.
Yeah. I think that's also something that we should really be thankful for and appreciate as part of both of our, coaster journeys is that for the moment we are able-bodied enough to be able to partake in this, hobby that we both have, where
Yeah,
we're privileged to be able to ride roller coasters, that so I think, and I
absolutely.
don't want to speak for you, but like by us documenting our journeys, it's a good way of celebrating times where, we're able to do these things, and that may not be forever. Whether it's
Absolutely. Yeah.
through a medical condition that is sort of, I'm not sure how degenerative it is, or whether there's like it will just keep going down, or whether it's something that can be improved. I'm not sure. You would be more expert to be able to elaborate on that. But
Yeah, it's
yeah, having
yeah,
just been feeling over the last couple of weeks what it's like to have a semblance of a disability where you need assistance with simple things. It gives you much more appreciation for people with disability, and how they go
mm,
through life every day, and how you know
yeah,
things like riding roller coasters, which we might take for granted, are privileged to be able to do.
absolutely. I fully agree. That's actually like a really um, powerful statement to me as well because while mine isn't at this stage of the disease development, ankylosing spondylitis can be a physical disability. And at the worst times that I've had in my life with it, not necessarily this time because it was more my eyes, which is like it's it's debilitating, but I can kind of handle it um, on my own. I have had times where it's occurred in other times in my body, and I couldn't do very much without assistance. And that, I'm lucky that I'm at a stage right now where that happens to me for a couple of weeks, and then I can treat that, and it goes away.
Hmm.
And I'm also very lucky to be in a time where it's there's no cure, but there are very effective treatments.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm very lucky that there is a good chance that I will be able to live a relatively normal life if I can find a treatment that works for me and my body. Um, but there is also that part of me that it has occurred to me that maybe I won't. Maybe um, there is a chance that that could become my normal, and particularly as you've said, as somebody with a hobby like riding roller coasters, where that's just no longer a possibility if you've got a a condition that affects your mobility in that way. Yeah, it's definitely very much about appreciating these good times while they last,
Mm.
and I think that's part of why even after I made the decision to come home, I was like, no. Rule number one about whatever I decide to do next is that Coaster Odyssey continues because um, I'm not giving up on any of this until I have no other choice,
Yeah.
basically. Um, so yeah, 2025 is going to be very different to what I expected it to be, even like 3 weeks ago. But it's definitely not going to be. Uh, I'm definitely not going to be stepping away from riding coasters at all, and I think that yeah, it does give me an appreciation for the fact that I'm living um, right now as a young, reasonably able-bodied person who can do all these things that I want to do, and I want to appreciate that while that is still the case.
Absolutely.
Mm.
But yeah, I hear what you mean about sort of reshaping plans, because yeah, that's sort of been the case for me, is like not knowing what the deal is for me. Like, they said, if it doesn't need surgery, then it's 6 weeks in a sling. And so that's from when I was at hospital, which was the 23rd of December. But they said, yeah, we want you to come back on the 8th to figure out if you need surgery. And if so, they didn't really give me a time when that would be healed, because they said if it needed surgery, they would need to go in and put like a metal plate and screws in. And then at some point that
Mm,
would need to come out. So it's like, how long's a piece of string as far as recovery time from that? Like, not just one, but two surgeries. Um,
yeah,
and I don't know what the prognosis would be for that kind of thing, and how that would affect riding roller coasters. You know, ha- do, I, this is just questions that I asked myself because I didn't think to at the time. But it's just like, are you able to ride roller coasters with a metal plate in your collarbone? What range of motion do you have? Like, is that affected? Um, yeah, just lots of little questions
generally,
that I just wish that
Generally,
I'd
just
thought about.
thinking as a ride operator, I don't think you'll have any problem once the plate would be in. It's obviously so while it's still injured, that's a no-no. And then recent surgery is a no-no. So once that surgery was done and it was fully recovered, I think you should be fine. Um, but I guess so from a ride operator's perspective, you're fine. But I guess you'd have to discuss with your medical practitioners about whether there's any risk involved because I don't know exactly how fragile um, joints and metal plates like that can be.
Yeah,
Um,
neither. So that's one of my many questions I'm asking on the 8th.
that will
So
be
I will hopefully have an
yes,
update for all of your listeners by next recording.
yes. No, I'm hoping for the best for you. It's
Thank you.
been a rough few weeks for both of us.
Hasn't it? Oh, jeez.
Hence why there's been no podcasts for a few weeks.
Yeah, we had bigger fish to fry at the time, so apologies, everybody.
Bigger concerns, but we're
But yeah,
back, and
yes,
that's the important thing.
it just may put a little bit of a delay in the final few episodes of Ejected Bear Time for me, because just knowing whether or not when I can ride roller coasters again is a who knows question right now.
Mm,
But
yeah.
we got 2 and a bit episodes in the can, so I'm able to edit those. And yeah, and just wait until I get more of a word. But speaking of those final episodes and what they would entail, I might use that as a segue, if I may, into what's happened on the Gold Coast in the last couple of weeks.
After all that build up that we spending every single episode talking constantly about Jungle Rush and Wizard of Oz, we missed the actual
We
opening because
missed.
we were away. We were not making podcasts at the time. And we're a couple of weeks late to the party, but yes, they're both open.
Woo!
Woo!
And
Um,
mixed reports from what I have seen and heard.
yes. Now I've deliberately avoided a lot of content, particularly about Jungle Rush, because I'm actually going in a couple of weeks to the Gold Coast.
Yep.
Um, so
I wish I could
I
join
will.
you.
Yes, I wish you could too. So I'm fully intending to, particularly with Jungle Rush, I'm fully intending to experience that. Absolutely going in blind.
I've
I've
avoided
seen it.
any details of what happens inside the turntable room, so I don't know.
I don't know anything beyond. I know some of the details of the queue.
Okay,
That's about it.
sure.
I don't even down to I still don't fully know the mechanics of how the ride's layout works. My intention is to actually make a video discussing the switchback coaster in a kind of from a technical standpoint,
Mhm.
based just on my own observations while I'm there. So yeah, I'm going in completely blind. I've seen all of Morrissippi Motors though, which looks spectacular.
Yeah, it's
Um,
gorgeous, isn't it? The
it's a
whole
beautiful
land,
ride.
my goodness.
It's it all looks so good. Dreamworld have done such a spectacular job, and I cannot wait to experience it for myself. Um, absolutely gorgeous. And
It's just
seriously, they knocked it out of the park because they they promised from the beginning that it was an immersive themed land, and they have, by the sounds of things, delivered.
very much so.
Really delivered. Um,
They've
I
got, like,
think even
it's not just the rides themselves, but the land, it's very well themed. There is seating, there are rubbish bins, there which, I'm alluding to
a
something else, which we'll get
little
to
bit
in a
of
second.
shade being thrown about
Possibly.
here.
Shade
I
comes from
saw this.
reading. Um,
I don't
but
know
yeah.
if you saw this. There, Dreamworld actually posted this on their social media. They did a video of like just people's first reactions to to Rivertown and to Jungle Rush on the opening day, and there was just this one legend who just kept saying that it's better than the other one down the road, and um, so much better than the other one down the road. And I think he appeared twice in the video, just both times throwing shade at Movie World, and I was like,
I
this
wonder
king.
whether or not he actually said better than Movie World in the first takes, and then whoever was filming the video was like, "Can you redo that, but just be a little bit more vague?"
Bit more vague, yeah. Either way, I love that they included it, and I was like, as soon as because one of my friends sent me that video, and I immediately said back like, "Who is this king throwing shade at Movie World in the middle of an official Dream World video?"
Oh my gosh. But yeah,
Oh, it was so good.
speaking of The Wizard of Oz,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
So I have avoided much less spoilers about this one
well, because
because,
there's not really much to spoil.
yeah, well, because I know what to expect from the rides and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
look, um, far less attention to detail, clearly.
More is the issue of
And
basic functionality of the precinct. There is no seating.
yeah,
There is one
there's
rubbish
no
bin that is
shade.
hidden behind a corner that once you turn around said corner, you see unthemed not unthemed, but old Arkham Asylum
Arkham
theming.
Asylum theming that they haven't even bothered to remove. Um, no shade is a big one, especially opening in the middle of summer in the Gold Coast.
Literal
How
no
are you
tea,
gonna
no
build a
shade.
land? How are you gonna how are you gonna build a whole land and not, like, just put up some shade sails, man?
Well,
Like, what do they
now
cost?
they've turned this the wizard's, reception room or whatever you want to call it. It's now like seeing people chilling out at Central Station that are, just sitting on the ground with their back against the wall. There's no seating in there
Mm,
either, and people are naturally going to congregate in there because it's an air conditioned spot.
mm.
So to me, it is silly to not at least provide some seating in such a large room.
I'm sure you heard about this too, but I've heard apparently, because for those who don't know, the major criticism of the queues has been that the really, immersive themed parts of the queues, which from what I've seen are actually quite good,
Mhm.
um, they happen at the beginning of the queues for the respective rides,
Yeah.
and then after you exit that, there is a further stretch of queue that is completely unthemed, out in the sun, um, just
Inside,
bare
link fencing.
yeah, just bare concrete and link fencing, and apparently, because of the issues they've been having with people overheating and, not having any shade, they've been queuing people up inside the indoor themed parts of the queue and then letting through a train at a time to, like, walk through the rest of that part of the queue all the way to the station. So they've, like, within a week, realized how shitty their own queue design is.
Yeah.
Um, man, I also don't get, um, if you have the money to only theme half your queues, which is
Mm.
fine, that happens, everyone's working on a budget. Um, why would you do the first half? Why wouldn't you do the second half so that people are actually gonna be waiting in that part of the queue even when you don't have monster 90-minute waits? Because
This
now
has been the ongoing problem with that area because back when it was Lethal Weapon, the front part of it was Chinatown, was all very well nicely themed, and it went into the main building, and then you came into the corner where, you actually joined
yeah,
the actual, um
the themed bit is the bit that you just walk straight through because
Yeah.
there's no line there. For the majority of the season, no one's gonna be waiting back that far. You're just gonna breeze past all this nice theming and wait inside the totally bland bit of concrete bit.
Yep. It's,
It's
great if you wanna,
stupid.
you know, it's actually made it kind of inspired when they changed it to Arkham Asylum because it felt like a real detention center.
Yeah. Oh my god. I
And now
I
that they've gone to
really
Wizard of Oz, now you're in, like, the jail of Oz? Like,
Yep, you've been imprisoned by the Wicked Witch of the West. Um,
she hasn't even
no,
give
I
you
don't
a camp little hourglass either.
no, you just put them in some link fences, they'll be alright. Um, look, I'll give Movie World some kudos. I've seen some, videos of interactions with the characters,
Yes,
and I was impressed.
same here.
Um,
Um, I hope they keep that up, and I
yes.
hope it's not just something that they have seasonally for the Hooray for Hollywood event, because as
Mm.
you may have seen of some of the videos out there of, like, the parade is beautiful, and now it's the Hooray for Hollywood event. They've got all of these different characters, but they still don't have the witch and Glinda in the parade.
No, and I hope that changes. Um, I really do hope that changes because, again, I think I said this in a previous episode, they need a bubble float for Glinda.
100%.
Please, get a bubble float. Um, but yeah, look, I saw it was actually Dane's video of his interaction with the Wicked Witch of the West. That actress was doing a fantastic job. What I loved about that interaction is that they made her still evil
Mm.
while being amicable towards guests.
Yeah. It's a
And
very
I
fine
think,
line to be able to draw.
yeah, it was nicely done. I was like, yeah, she's the bad guy, but like I don't like kids are not going to be scared
The best
so
I've seen
much.
that done is at Disneyland with the evil queen from Snow White, who is just
Mm,
delightfully evil, and she'll throw shade at
yes.
guests. It's amazing. She's
Yeah.
my favorite of the Disney characters, at Disneyland. Um,
Yeah, you want them to be approachable because obviously they're supposed to be approached. Um, but you still want them to be playing a genuine version of the character, so
yeah,
they've got to be evil. And I do think that they did a good job of that with the Wicked Witch.
that's good.
From that clip, she was funny. She interacted with Dane really well. I really like that. So if that actress is listening, good job. You're a good Wicked Witch of the West. I like you.
Hats off, pointy hats off.
Yes, yes. Pointy hats off.
Um,
Um,
but yes,
yeah,
back to
but
the lack of seating in movie world. Have you
ugh.
seen? I think there was in some shots in a forum, or on Discord where because there's no seating in the Wizard of Oz area, people are sitting on the retaining walls with their feet in the garden beds and are trampling all of the freshly planted flowers that are in that area, and that's after
See,
a week.
this is like theme park design 101. This isn't
Mhm.
even like, they tried something and they got it wrong. This
They
is
just
like
didn't try something.
the basics that you need. Like, people are on their feet all day. They need a place to sit down. People are eating food and drinking drinks. They need a rubbish bin, otherwise they're gonna throw it on the ground.
Yep.
It it's just, did none of them play Roller Coaster Tycoon?
Yeah, or theme
Like,
park
ever?
or Planet Coaster,
Yeah.
like, this
Like,
is Sim 101.
this is this is like, you learn this in the tutorial, guys.
Like, if you don't put bins down, then you have to hire maintenance people to clean everything up.
Yeah, yeah, put some bins down, what the fuck? Oh, God. Like, that's not the kind of problem that I anticipated. Like, obviously, as you can tell from the last few episodes in the weeks leading up to its opening, I had my doubts and I had my, serious concerns about the way things were looking, but this was not the problem I anticipated.
Yeah.
The problem that I anticipated was the theming being rushed, which honestly, actually, I don't think has turned out to be the case because what is there looks good.
It's just not complete.
It's
Like, it's not
Yeah,
it's 3/4 good.
yeah, like what they've actually themed looks good. They just haven't themed it all for
Like, it
some reason.
wouldn't be that hard for them to fill those giant blank green walls with poster frames. Like, I don't know, get your emerald shoes at the Emerald City Emporium, like, made up things about the Emerald City, just to
It
fill all the
it
blank
doesn't
negative
Yeah,
spaces.
it doesn't have to be anything particularly special. It you just gotta. You got to do something.
You know, they did it. They do it in Superman's queue with all of the things about the Metropolis MTA. That's all you need, just something to fill giant blank spaces of wall that are minimally themed.
It's really weird to me how they can go from like the facade of that Emerald City building looks so good. It is incredible. And
Mhm.
then they've just got all this empty space, all this unused area that's totally unthemed, or
That
even
Arkham thing
less
is
than
the biggest
unthemed.
crime, I think.
Yeah, that actually is like hideous. I don't know
I
how
mean, it was
much
very
effort
well
would it
themed
have
for an Arkham
taken?
area, but it's not an Arkham area anymore.
How much effort would it have taken to put into context how little effort they put into that little Arkham corner where the bin is?
Yeah.
We're not even talking, oh, they left it painted grey and they didn't bother to paint it green.
There is still Arkham
The
signage up.
Arkham the Arkham signage is still there. That's like get a screwdriver and pull it off the wall. Like that's how little effort that takes
Yeah.
to get rid of that.
And
Well,
for everyone who thinks that we're just constantly ragging on Movie World, we're not saying things that can't be done, like, addressed with uh, let me start my sentence again. We're not saying anything that can't be easily fixed. The things we're
no,
suggesting
absolutely
are
not.
fairly easy fixes. You know, there's
Very
like
easy
a
fixes.
saying about don't criticize someone's appearance if it's something they can't fix within a minute, you know? Like,
Yeah.
because it's just gonna make them feel shit about themselves. Like, these are all things that are very easy to fix. Put an extra bin in, put a bench in, put some signage up. If you're not going to retheme that section of Arkham area behind that corner, rope the corner off so people can't see it. Move the bin somewhere
Yeah.
else. These are all very simple things.
It's alarming to me because if there's one thing that Dreamworld should not be walking all over Movie World at, it's theming.
Yeah,
Because
they are.
Dreamworld has every right to put up just a generic ride with no theming whatsoever. And you'd be a little bit like, oh, maybe they could have themed it, but it's Dreamworld. Like
Mm.
it's part amusement park, really. Like if it's a good ride, then you'd be like, okay,
Well, I
whatever.
think
But
Dreamworld's definitely bringing the theme back to theme park.
yeah, and Movie World are the ones that I'm pretty sure they even did the tagline at one point that they were Australia's only theme park.
Yeah,
And I'm like, well, did you try? Like, come
because it's
on.
feeling like they. Okay, I'm not going to say they didn't try because all the artists, all of the actors that are involved, they are clearly putting in an
Oh,
effort. But there is
that's
a
the
clear detachment between the budget that has been allowed and the product that was.
yeah. That's the important thing I want to emphasize is that I definitely think that there are a lot of artists who put in a lot of work to this, and I'm not ragging on them by any means.
Absolutely.
Especially like I said, the stuff that's there is
It's great.
really good.
Really good.
And I think that it looks someone put it this way in the Discord, I think it might have been Yum Yum, so I don't wanna take full credit for these
Mr.
words.
Yum Yum now.
Mr.
Yeah,
Yum
what?
Yum, yes,
Yeah.
correct. Um, said that it very much felt like these creative artists who were behind kind of the design and the creation of all this were just not given the freedom or the
Mm.
budget or the time or the anything to make it what it could have been.
What's
And I do suspect that's the case.
yeah, what's the little triangle where it's like you can only have 2 corners of the triangle? It's good, fast, and cheap. Like, you can have something
Mm,
cheap, but you can have something good and cheap, but it won't be done
but it's gonna
fast.
take time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can have something fast and good, but it won't be cheap. You can
Yeah.
have something cheap and fast, but it won't be good. And
Yes.
let's just say, yeah.
I think they might have gone for cheap and fast,
Mm,
unfortunately. Um, well, to an extent,
yeah,
because for the third time, there is a lot of things in that land that are very, very good.
yeah.
Unfortunately, just as a complete package, it's not really. Um, I
I'm
wanna
thoroughly
mention
entertained by Morbo the Wizard.
I was about to mention him because not only do I think that he looks like Morbo, but I get really uncanny valley vibes.
Oh,
Like
he
I
also
actually
looks like handsome Squidward.
I'm actually a little bit scared of I'm gonna fully admit that I've had at least one nightmare since the opening of Wizard of Oz that has involved the Wizard of Oz head. It's very uncanny valley. I
'Cause yeah,
don't like it.
it doesn't it's definitely not an actor, it's computer generated. It's
Yeah. It's computer generated and it's alarmingly not human, but
yeah,
human at the same time. It's very weird. I don't like it.
I feel like it's
I'm
gonna
gonna
punch my ticket to the Polar Express, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. We should probably talk more about Dreamworld because we're just gonna go on another
Yeah, we'll
rant
keep
episode
ragging.
here if we don't.
But
Yeah.
let's end our topic on Movie World on the good notes, is that we've got, you know, technically 3 new roller coasters there at Movie World, which is really
Mhm.
awesome and hopefully will eat up a lot of the crowds at the park.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's where we're really happy for that. And fingers crossed they can, now that that land is open, they'll be able to finish off some of their unfinished areas of the park, like getting Scooby Doo reopened, doing whatever they plan on doing with Doomsday, all kinds
Yeah.
of things there. So we're watching Movie World, and we hope we hope things start going well, and that you
I
can
always have
hopefully
high hopes
address
for Movie World.
totally, because they've got plenty to work with.
Of course.
Yes,
Dreamworld.
back to Dreamworld. They've
Dreamworld. Wow.
knocked it out of the
I
park.
They really have. Um my question now is what's next other than King Claw, of course.
Hmm.
Um and I'm very excited to find out the answer to that because I feel like we're going to find out soon and I feel like it's going to be good.
Yeah.
I just think they're kind of on a roll at the moment.
Have you seen, speaking of Mr. Yum Yum, have you seen Mr. Yum Yum's Australian theme park bingo for 2025?
Yeah, actually I contributed a couple of the
Oh, did
squares for
you?
that one. Yeah. Um one of the ones I contributed was a roller coaster being announced somewhere other than the Gold Coast. Um but I highly recommend checking out Mr. Yum Yum's Instagram. I think he's probably posted it on some other platforms as well, but Instagram is where I've seen it. He's got an Australian theme park bingo card out, and it's going to be very entertaining to see how much
Like, it gave
of
me a
it gets
chuckle, but at the
completed.
same time, it feels very likely of hitting a bingo really quickly.
Yeah, some of it I think you could almost cross off already.
Yeah.
There's some that's going to be, I suspect, is very close to happening already.
I feel
Um,
like the first obvious one for me is immersive dining experience at Movie World, because they're
yes,
already
I think
started on the
that's
commissary restaurant, or whatever it was
I
called.
do think that's what we're going to get.
Mm,
I hope that's what we're going to get. Um, I feel like they have to have an answer to Jane's Rivertown restaurant.
for sure.
Um, I will say though, I was very impressed by the last time I was at the Gold Coast. I was very impressed by the Casablanca restaurant.
Oh, the Rick's Cafe American.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't think I'd ever seen it open before. I'd always known that there was just this little shop front that was Casablanca themed.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's a cool reference, cool Easter egg. But I never kind of realized there was a whole restaurant in there, and then it was open
It's a buffet,
in
isn't
early
it?
2024. No, they're not running it as a buffet anymore.
Okay.
Um, it was pizza and it was pasta, and they had a bar in there as well. But they also had this whole area full of movie world related Easter eggs just up on this balcony. Um, like there was signage from the old Batman the Ride. There was a couple of animatronics from the Looney Tunes River Ride. Um, just a whole bunch of stuff up there that was like, oh my god, that's a that's an Easter egg. That's a reference. Which made my eating experience very entertaining, and the food was excellent. So
Lovely.
I liked it. I'm hopeful that, yeah, I do think they could use something like a full on immersive dining experience. That would really work for the park, I think.
Yeah, and also be one of those things that, what do you call it? Eats up people kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's a
absolutely.
there's a better phrase for that. I can't think of what it is.
Disperses the crowd? I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably a little bit more eloquent.
Yeah. Kind of spreads the crowds a little bit. Yeah. They I think they do need their dining options for a long time have kind of been kind of hit and miss.
Mm,
I
and
like Rick's and I like Dirty Harry's, but then they've got that like the Gotham City themed
the cafe or
burger
whatever, the burger
place.
place,
Yeah,
and
which
the
just
only
is
place
the
that
shittiest food.
used to have the Main Street Deli, which was the only place you could get a salad or a low carb option in the park, and then they changed that to a pizza place. So it's like, well, now I can't
Oh,
bring food in and I can't eat anything in the park. So
yeah.
because
No, that's
the whole diabetes thing, I can't have carbs because my body doesn't process them correctly.
yeah, that's really not helpful. The lack of consideration for dietary options is always an alarming thing for especially a park of that size. Like if
Mm.
you're going to Adventure Park Geelong and they haven't got something to fit your specific dietary requirements, then it's like, yeah,
At
okay,
least
whatever.
Adventure Park
But
Geelong, they didn't do any bag checks or anything like that, and so I just brought
yeah,
some snacks in there just to tide me over.
are there Australian parks that currently do bag checks?
I'm not sure, but it's
Because
just one of those
I
things,
remember,
like, when they say don't bring outside food is I generally don't because I try and be a goody two
because I
shoes in
remember
that way.
going to Thorpe Park, and that was my first bag check of the year that I spent overseas was at Thorpe Park. And I remember just thinking like, wow, okay, guys got to go through my whole backpack just to get into the park. Like,
Yeah.
sure, I guess I can see the reasoning behind it, but I don't think I've ever experienced that in Australia.
We did, I think back, post turn of the century, there were obvious reasons why they were doing bag checks, but
Hmm.
as like a post 9/11 thing, but yeah, I haven't seen it in recent years.
The closest stuff to that was I did go to Luna Park, Sydney, um, during the like post-COVID but still COVID restrictions era.
Right.
We had to get our temperature checked and everything
Ah,
to get
okay.
into the park. And there was a full-on like health check, but I don't think they checked my bag.
Mm.
Um,
I think they would
yeah,
check it
no,
if it was like a New Year's event or something to make sure you weren't sneaking in alcohol or anything like that, but
I imagine
yeah,
probably.
I don't think they're sort of really doing that as general practice.
If they did, they didn't do a very good job. My first New Year's event at Luna Park, Sydney, I was working on the Wild Mouse and someone spilled a whole bunch of drugs in the bottom of the Wild Mouse
Oh
car.
my god.
Yeah.
That mouse got
Yeah, they
all
had their
wild.
yeah, like, I guess it's been long enough that I might have to explain kind of what I'm talking about. The Wild Mouse, since it's been so closed for so long, um, they're little bathtub cars. They're like they're tiny. You can only fit 2 people in them, and because there's a separate entry and exit platform, and there's no, like, loose item bins or anything like that. If you've got a bag with you, you just put it in the front of the car,
Yeah.
like down underneath the front of the car. And this woman at New Year's Eve in it was 2021 to 2022, um, she had her handbag in the front of the Wild Mouse car, and I was on the brake and unload platform.
Mhm.
Um, and we stopped this woman's car and like are trying to help her get her handbag out because we've got a very long line. We're running cars pretty quickly, so we're trying to rush them out. And her handbag is tipped over during the ride, and there's just drugs everywhere, all over the
Wow.
bottom of the car. I was like, I don't even what do I even do? Because like we've got like 3 other cars on the circuit right now. I don't have time to do the whole I'm calling security lecture. I think I've just got to help this woman get her drugs back into her
Oh
handbag.
god.
It's just I just get her the hell out of here because I'm like, oh shit, there's like 3 other cars coming. I don't have time for
Oh my
this.
god.
We did call security, but I was just like, I just need to get you out because
Yeah.
you're gonna hold up the whole ride and cause a safety problem here if I don't just.
When you were saying that she'd spilt it in the bottom of the car, I was like, was she trying to do a bump in the middle of the ride circuit? Like what?
Oh, no, no, no. She just had and I will say, by the way, she had enough in there to kill a horse. Like, there was, like I don't know what kind of New Year's Eve she was planning, but I hope she was planning it with a lot of other people because
Oh
if those
jeez.
were all for her, then holy shit. Um, but yeah, no, it was just a whole like, she had her whole handbag just full of stuff,
Wow. Okay.
and
Yeah,
it tipped
that's
over during the ride, yeah.
whew, you know?
Don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah. Or if you're doing it, just be careful because you don't know if it's been scraped off the bottom of a wild mouse cart.
Man, the wild mouse cars. We had someone spill a whole Woolworths bag full of apples in there once, and I was just like, "I'm not even gonna ask." Like, what the fuck?
Apples?
Apples. Like a Woolworths grocery bag almost full of apples, and they took that on the ride, which I didn't notice because I was on the brakes and exit platform, so I don't find out about this until I stop the car and then
Had to go
go to help
literally
the
bobbing for
person.
apples.
Yeah, have to help the person out of the car. I'm like, "What? Why the fuck are there apples everywhere? What is going on?" Man,
Oh.
people brought some weird shit there. Oh yeah, last wild mouse story, we did have one person ask if they could take their support animal on the wild mouse.
Oh my god, can you imagine that terrified fucking animal?
Yeah, it was a dog. I was like, "No. No, no. Why would
No.
you think that you could?" What?
That dog isn't exactly giving it okay to being on a
Look,
wild mouse.
taking it taking it on the carousel or the Ferris wheel is one thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's very slow moving. It's all fine. This is a roller coaster, sir.
Yeah.
Your dog is not gonna enjoy this. Your dog is not gonna have a good time. I'm
No.
sorry. Just alarming. Alarming that it occurred to someone.
And also that didn't cross their mind.
Yeah, like,
That it was all about the dog giving them support, not the fact that the dog might need support itself to be in a situation like that.
yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. Um, it's pretty concerning that they had such little concern for their support animals' welfare that they were like, "Well, I wanna go on the wild mouse, and I have a support animal, so my support animal's gonna come with me."
Yeah,
Like,
there's a leap of logic
no.
there.
No, that's not gonna happen. Um, yeah. The wild mouse was a crazy place. I miss it a lot. I can't wait to see it open again.
I'm assuming it's gonna be February because the way
It's
they
gotta be
phrased it,
soon.
they said because in that news update that we heard from the Luna Park CEO, they said summer. So,
Mm.
I'm assuming February because that's the last month of summer. Um,
I've had some, I won't name them, but some wonderful inside sources keeping me up to date with the reconstruction process, and it does look very close.
yeah,
Um, I know that there are cars on the track
okay.
at this point in time. So, um, yeah, it shouldn't be too long. I don't know how much testing and commissioning and stuff they've got to do because this is a very unique set of circumstances with this ride. But yeah, it should not be very long at all,
Mm. Um,
which is good.
Yeah. Being that I've already ridden both Wild Mouse, Scooby-Doo, and Kenny's Forest Flyers in the past, the only coasters left for me, technically, for me to have ridden every coaster in Australia, are the new ones on the Gold Coast now.
You know, I feel really bad now because we were joking when I was first coming back over. Even before that, actually, when I was talking about maybe coming back over in another year's time just to visit or whatever, we were joking about um, us having this little competition to be the kings and and hold the crown of having every roller coaster in Australia. I actually do have plans to kind of complete the ones that I've missed since leaving. And because of your circumstances, I will probably do that before you get to the Gold Coast, unfortunately.
Curses!
I I because I'll be at the Gold Coast in a couple of weeks, so I'll catch up on Flash Speed Force, and of course I'll get all the new ones as well, which will mean the only one I'll be missing will be Threadbow. Um, and I fully intend to probably do that in February.
Okay. Oh well,
So
the
I
dream
will
was there.
probably be the dream was there. You can join me at the top of the podium once you are
Sure.
well again.
We'll share the crown.
Yes, we will.
Um,
Um, yeah. It's what were we talking about? Oh yeah, Wild Mouse. Um, it's going to be great to see it back in operation again. It's
yeah.
been way too long now.
It is, like, it feels like Luna Park is incomplete without it.
Mm.
Like, when I've taken people to trips to Luna Park for the day and the Wild Mouse isn't there, it doesn't feel like a trip to Luna Park properly.
It was especially weird when the structure was completely removed, and
Yeah.
it's like it's not even there. It's not like it's not even SB&O. It's just like not there.
Mm.
It was really weird. So I'm very glad that we're not too far away from seeing it back up again because yeah, it's such an important part of the identity of the park.
Absolutely. Um,
Um,
and also part of the skyline of the park, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it's part of the
absolutely.
identity.
I
So
hope I'll be waiting on an announcement of when it reopens, but I hope that that's another thing I might get to do this year is go back down to Sydney and get back on the Wild Mouse for the first time in a while.
that'd be great.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see. You know,
Fingers
I'm
crossed.
not taking anything for granted with that at the moment because the amount of bullshit that has happened with this reconstruction of the Wild Mouse,
Oh, yeah.
you know, anything could happen at this point. We're just touching wood, just like, come on, surely, surely it can't be long now.
And who knows we've still got the Big Banana to open at the end of this year now.
True, true.
Um,
Who
according
knows
to
what's happening
some
with that
Nancy
either?
Drewing that I did a couple of weeks ago, where I found the latest annual report from the Big Banana Fun Park, and the updated opening date is the end of 2025.
I have a question. I'm going to ask this just in case anybody who is on the inside at the Big Banana ever listens to this podcast. Ever. Like even if you are like an insider at the Big Banana and you're listening to this podcast, even if this episode came out 8 years ago, I don't care. I want you to get in contact and answer this question. So the Big Banana had its old like train monorail thing, right? And like a lot of the tracks and stuff are still there for it.
Mm.
Um, and it used to go down past there's like a lake. Um, and you can still see that lake, like it's near the car park. It's kind of obscured by trees and stuff now, but it's still there. And at one stage, when you went past that lake, there was an animatronic bunyip that came out of the water. And there's like very little footage or anything of this, but it is like it's documented that there was this animatronic bunyip um, that was part of this train ride. And apparently they stopped using the animatronic because of budget reasons, and then eventually the train itself closed. And I want to know, is the animatronic bunyip still there?
Sub-mechanophobic people, inquiring
Because
minds would like to know.
that's why I'm asking, because at this stage, I don't think that train is operated for like 20 years at this point. And I'm just wondering, what level of decay has that animatronic bunyip gone through? And if you were to put a camera underwater and look at it now, would it be the most terrifying thing that I've ever seen in my fucking life?
You also want to know so that you know that it's not hiding around a corner somewhere.
I think I want the answer to be no, just so that I don't have nightmares about that possibility. Every time I go to the Big Banana from now on, I'm gonna be like eyeing off that lake like,
It's here. I
oh
can smell
no.
it.
I can sense it. I can feel it in my bones. It's watching me.
Feel it in my broken bones.
It's like I don't want to make any assumptions about the Big Banana, but I grew up only 3 hours away from Coffs Harbour. I know what like the attitude of Australians in this part of the country is like. There's a whole sense of like, just leave it, she'll be right.
Yeah.
So
The water
there
will
is like
reclaim it.
I'm like 80% sure that if you either had to spend money on going underwater and disassembling an animatronic, no, I'm like 80% sure that the Big Banana would just like, fuck it, just leave it there. It'll be fine. And that's an alarming possibility to me as someone with very mild submechanophobia.
Well, who knew that, they would give such, maintenance love to the bunyip out at Murray Bridge?
Yeah, they've got that thing. Is it back now? Have they rebuilt
I
it
would assume
already?
so. It's been over a year since we were there.
Yeah, you'd hope so. Should go back.
Yeah, maybe.
Go back to Murray Bridge.
Yes, I also went to another town with the word bridge in the title, a small town called Dadswalls Bridge, which is
Oh yeah,
home to a big
another
thing.
another place with an alarming and terrifying creature that watches me in my sleep.
That koala has seen things.
It really has.
You may recall us
Oh my
discussing this
god.
koala on our episode with MIDI theme parks.
Yes, that's it. It's a illized.
So I did go there. People there were lovely.
Yes.
It's a very tiny little town, which is being quite under threat because of the fires in the Grampians National Park.
Yeah,
I
still
don't
ongoing at the
think
moment,
that
right?
particular town has been hit yet, but it's apparently like a ghost town more so than usual, because people are just
Fuck.
out of there trying to avoid the fires.
Yeah,
But yeah, when I
that
went,
time of year.
it was lovely. You couldn't go up into the top of the giant koala, because they were using it for storage, I think. The staircase that led up there was like filled with boxes of random shit. So it was just like, oh, okay, I can't go up the top.
Hmm.
Which was
Damn.
a little disappointing because I
Shame.
did drive, a good 3 hours out of the way to get there. But, no big loss.
There's this weird trend actually with big things that you used to be able to go inside of, now no longer being able to go inside of.
There's like a big potato out at near like Rutherford or something like that, or Robertson, or I can't
I
remember what
mean
the
the
name of the
big
town.
poo.
The Big Poo, and you apparently used to be able to go inside it, but people were literally doing big poos inside the Big Poo, so they closed it off.
It's the best reason ever. Oh my god. It's such an Australian thing to do as well.
It's very
But
meta.
there's also yeah, the little poo and the big poo. Um,
It's a Russian
but
doll of poos.
uh, that's such, now that I'm thinking about it, like all of the big things that I'm aware of that you could go inside, the only one I can think of that you still can go inside is the Big Banana.
Well,
Is
I believe that the Big Pineapple is getting reopened. It's just that because it was still under its refurbishment, they hadn't finished the renovations on the inside yet.
I think it's been like 15 years though since you could go in that thing. Because
Um,
I did my research on it recently. I've got a video coming out very soon about strange and obscure Australian attractions, and the Big Pineapple was one of them.
because yeah, there were 2 of them at one point.
Yeah, well, this one, the Sunshine Coast one, went bankrupt, and in like 2009, 2010, and then it got bought by the company that owns it now, I think, but I don't think that they've had it open to the public since then.
Well, because they're undergoing like a massive renovation, like multi-phase thing. So they've got the plantation there. They've got the little train thing, and then they will eventually open up phase 2, which will have sort of a big restaurant. I think you're able to go inside the pineapple at that point. You can sort of see glimpses of the phases that on like a big sign when you look at my Aussie World video. But yeah,
Well, there's also
their big
places
claim to
like the
fame
Big
was that
Oyster.
Prince Charles and Princess Diana came and did the train ride when they were there.
Oh yeah. Well, there's like um the Big Oyster is the other one that like mystifies me.
Yep.
It's huge. It used to have a restaurant inside it, I believe.
I believe I know the one you're referring to. Yep.
In Taree, yeah. It used to have, and I believe I've heard that the oyster itself had a restaurant inside it, but then the restaurant closed down, and now the building underneath it, because it got like sold or
It's a
whatever,
car
is a
dealership, isn't it?
it's a Kia dealership.
So
Yeah.
you can't go
So
inside it anymore because it's a place of business.
yeah. So now there's just a big oyster on top of a Kia dealership.
And it's the same with the Big Prawn in Ballina. You used to be able to go up inside that, and now you
Go up
can't. And
inside.
now
That was
it's
the other one I was going to mention. They almost pulled that thing down, which is a travesty.
and then
They were
they
gonna,
bought it, and now it's in a Bunnings car park as like a
yeah,
self-standing
which
structure, which you can't go inside. And I
which
believe they
to be
built a
fair,
tail for it.
yeah, yeah, to be fair to the Bunnings, I believe they bought it just because of like the local um outcry at the fact that it was going to be demolished, so they bought it specifically just to keep it alive. And really because, they didn't have the budget to build a building for it, their only option was build a framework and a tail for it
Yeah.
and just chuck it outside the car park. So fair enough, but it still is a bit of a disappointment.
At least it's something they've preserved it. So that,
Yeah. Yeah, it's still there, so that's one thing. Like, good on them for keeping it around.
But yes, you can go inside the big Merino at Goulburn, which
Oh
you'll see in
yes, I
my
forgot about that
Threadbow
one.
video. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, there are surprisingly few ones that you do have the ability to go up inside anymore.
Yeah, sadly.
I'm not sure
I
about the
want to
Big Lobster in South Australia, whether or not you can go inside that or not.
I don't think so. I I don't really know, but I don't think you ever could. I feel like it's just a sculpture. Um,
But yes,
there's a
the
lot of
gift,
weird big things.
the giant koala in Dad Swill's Bridge, you go inside because the gift shop is there. It's just you can't go up into the head anymore.
Go up anymore. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I want to
but
go to the Big Bogan.
I have heard of the Big Bogan.
Big Bogan. There used to be the Big Joint.
Let me guess, Nimbin.
Yep. I believe it was temporary though.
Right.
Um, yeah, but it was there. Um, Also, the other interesting one is the Big Gumboot because it's as tall as the amount of rainfall that that part of North Queensland gets every year.
Right.
Um,
I'm
which
assuming
is
there's
like what it.
drainage in the bottom of the Big Gumboot.
Yes, yes, there is. But that's why they built it because apparently there's like a dispute between these two towns in North Queensland about which one is the wettest town in Australia, and
Oh,
one of them
matron.
One of them built the big gumboot. That's like a monument to that amount of rain that they supposedly get on average every year.
Right.
Which is a lot of rain. Send some of it somewhere else, you fucking selfish bastards.
Send it down to Dadswell's Bridge. They need it.
Yeah, they do. All best wishes to anybody in that part of the country or any of the other parts of the country that are currently under threat.
Absolutely.
Um,
I made sure that when I was
one of the
there, I bought myself a T-shirt and a pin, because I don't know how
very
many
good
visitors they're getting at this time of year. So do what you can to support
supporting
local
the
businesses.
supporting the local community. Absolutely, man. I hope the giant koala's okay. He's already
Me
seen a lot
too.
of shit. He doesn't need to see.
He's been through a lot.
He really has. You're gonna go down there, and that existential stare is gonna be even worse.
His 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah. I wonder if anyone's ever made like that edit. You know that the Vietnam flashbacks edit
I was
of
only 19.
just like the slow zoom with like the black and white footage
Yep.
overlaid on it of like Vietnam. I think the giant koala is perfect for that.
So the passing out parade at Pacapanyo was a long march from cadets.
Oh god. I actually used to have to do a passing out parade. I was in cadets in school. They didn't call it passing out parade for nothing.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah. I don't know why they did it in like November. What the fuck are you doing, you morons? We live in Australia. Like, yeah, let's dress up a bunch of teenagers who don't know how to hydrate themselves properly in full-on cadet uniform and put them in the middle of a shadeless field for 2 hours in late November in Australia. I wonder what'll happen.
Fun times.
Probably 30% of them will pass out.
Hence the name.
Oh, no. It's because the formality of leaving the cadet union is called passing out of the cadet unit.
Oh, yeah.
No, fuck it. Fuck, no. It's because everyone faints. Ugh. I never actually fainted during passing out parade, but there was one time where I was very close.
Oh, could not be me.
Like that awful feeling where you start to like everything gets really fuzzy.
Just like
That,
graying out on a roller coaster, but without the fun adrenaline rush.
Yeah, basically. Like a really bad gray out, like where you feel like the pins and needles in your extremities as well.
And the cold sweats.
Yep, it was nasty. I don't know how I didn't faint, but I held on somehow. It was a horrible feeling. Yeah. Didn't like passing out parade very much.
Understandably.
Anyway, as we approach an hour and a half of I don't know, like 50% of it was still the usual nonsense, and then 50% of it was
us discussing our
very
ailments.
our very important life updates. Yeah.
What are you hoping for from 2025?
Ooh, I actually do have like 3 explicit goals. I've set myself. I'm trying to be to really be healthy with my goal setting in 2025. So I've set 3 goals. I want to hit 15,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. I want to visit 10 more countries, and just my personal life goal is I want to be living in my own rental place with a car and a pet.
Nice.
By this time, this time next year.
Are you hoping for Armadale or close to a metro area?
Yeah.
Or?
I will be working in Armadale, so I will probably, and I do intend to stay in this job, so I will probably be living in Armadale. Yeah.
Cool.
Maybe some more regular Green Valley Farm content.
Nay.
See, but it's my local park again.
Yep. Start pressuring them for a new roller coaster.
Yeah. RMC when? I'll give
Uh,
them I'll give them contact details for Alan Schilke.
Figure out how to make it a full terrain circuit.
Can you imagine if they actually did like build a Giga or something and it's just this park with like human powered roller coaster, hand built water slide, bunch of playground equipment, B&M Giga.
Like I found it funny that of all of the all of the water slides that I could have broken my collarbone on, it wasn't Green Valley Farms. Which
Because that one could break your collarbone. It
oh my
really could.
gosh. Yeah. Um
It
yeah, and it was
it's
I wanted a lot more I guess more of a legit park that did me in
look,
the end.
I've got to say, for all of like the awesome pro slide stuff that we have in Australia, Green Valley Farms water slide holds its own. And I think
It's
it deserves
so
to be
good.
in the conversation of like what is the best water slide in Australia. I don't think it is the best water slide, but it's in the conversation,
It
and
definitely
that's
is. It's up there.
remarkable. Yeah, it's it's such a crazy water slide. Everyone listening should go and visit Green Valley Farm, ride the water slide, ride the human powered coaster while you're at it.
Yeah. You know,
Give them some love.
it's the 2 parks with the Grant Telfer roller coasters that I think, we ask all of our guests about the Keith Monorail one, but I do think that the Green Valley Farm should be included in that conversation as well, because those are the 2 locations that most Aussie coaster enthusiasts tend to skim over because they're just not
Yeah,
convenient to get to.
I actually really would love to give Green Valley Farm some more love in the enthusiast community, because I think the other thing that I kind of highlighted in my documentary a little bit, but that's so good about them, is that they run it purely for operating costs. They don't
Mm,
make a profit off that place.
yeah.
So it's $15
Mm.
for an adult to get into that place. And
If you do
it's
go,
so much fun.
please do chip in a little bit more as like a donation because
Yeah, make a donation, buy some merch from them or something.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
yeah, they're doing it for the love of it.
Yeah. And who knows how long that'll remain to be the case. Um, they've had their struggles, unfortunately, with frivolous, I suppose not necessarily frivolous, but lawsuits that sadly um, have put them in a little bit of danger in the past. So
Yeah,
we want to make sure we give them some love.
yeah. For 2025 for me, I would like to heal up and be able to be coaster fit again. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because yes, it's kind of put a little bit of a dampener on my plans, which I was hoping to have, you know, ticked off in the first quarter of 2025, but we, we shall see. Um,
Yep.
I would like to get an overseas trip in at some point. You know,
Ooh.
surgery pending. Who knows? We'll see. But yes, I would like an overseas trip in there. And yeah, I would like to be able to see where I go with ejector bear time and what it evolves into, and figure out and what direction the channel should take. Because it won't necessarily be all about big and tall focused anymore. That will still be part of it, but it won't be the main focus. So that's an open-ended goal, I think. It's not really a, a thing that you can just necessarily cross off the list, but it's something I would like to explore.
Yeah, I think that's good. Gives you a lot of exploring to do as well.
Mm. And just trying to redefine what my goal for the channel is.
Yeah. I love
Um,
that these kinds of projects are the things that can evolve and evolve with you.
yeah, well, the big part of it was you know, me getting out post-COVID, and giving me a reason to get out of the house and, travel around Australia, because, yeah, I was turning into a little bit of a shut-in at the time and, it's given me won't say a purpose, but, like, it's given me a lot more of a reason to get out and about,
Mm,
which I'm very thankful for.
very good. We should probably wrap up.
Yeah,
So I have been Maloney's Coasters.
I've
If you'd
been
like to
ejected bear
find out,
time.
oh yes, you have indeed. If you'd like to find out more about my stuff, I'm on YouTube, Maloney's Coasters. I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. You can find me on any of those, and I post there pretty regularly. What about you, Kieran?
You can find me at Ejected Bear Time on YouTube, and you can also find me at ejectedbeartime.bluesky.social on Blue Sky. Um, yeah, that's it. Social media grandpa. So just the two places for me.
Nice and simple. All right. Well, we will see you next week. There'll be plenty of guests coming on the podcast this year, I'm sure. Hopefully, a lot more exciting episodes to come in 2025. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy
And
New
until
Year.
next time,
This has been a
this has
bunch
been Total Bunch.
of total bearlony.
Baloney.
What a
What a
bunch! What a
bunch.
bunch!